Good evening, how everyone doing today? God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Irma J. Spirit Divine. I'm here to give you a word on today. And the topic gonna be David and the giant. Got out. This giant was like 9 feet tall. So size doesn't matter when you time for you to fight the enemy, for you to fight the devil, and no matter how big the devil is, no matter how big your storm is, it doesn't matter what size you are. You can bring down your giant. If David can do it, we can do it. David had confidence, and he had confidence in the Lord that he could go out there as a boy and still defeat that giant. Because I know we all have giants in our life. Sometimes the giants be right all over your shoulder, all around you and stuff, but things can come down. Okay, so this story gonna be about David being a young boy, and when God chose him to be anointed. Now, but not in position. Now he gonna be anointed, but not in position until Saul depart. So Samuel will anoint David, and God also said he don't look at the outer appearance or the height, but the heart. See, God look at the heart. God don't worry about how you look on the outside. He don't worry about the outside. He don't worry about how short you is. They have a lot of young prophets that's in this Bible, because it doesn't matter how old you is. But God has something designed for you, no matter how old you is, how short you is, you have a purpose on your life. So the size doesn't matter. So that's why he's sending Samuel over there to anoint him. So that's why he tell him, God already know he is a boy. So that's why he tell him, don't worry about the height and don't worry about the appearance. Just choose what I tell you to choose. So we will also see how David will fight this big giant who is 9 feet tall. Now David's story is fighting the giant that will make history. That's all a lot of prophets talk about David, this big giant. We all got giants in our life. And we got confidence like David had in God. We can bring down our giants too. Because he had told it, and then Saul tried to dress him with all kind of stuff. He like, yeah, I can't walk in this here. All David needed was a slingshot in the name of the Lord. He was going out there and faced that big giant. You know, so the Lord rejects Saul as king. The first God gonna reject Saul as king before he sent Samuel out there to him to try to anoint David. And that gonna come from First Samuel chapter 15 verse 10 on down. So first I'm gonna talk about how Saul didn't follow through a mission that sent him to do. That God had sent him to do. So God stated that So God came to Samuel, and God stated to him that he was in grief. So God was in grief because see, God had chosen Saul. God chose Saul also to be king. And so when he saw Saul going his own way, instead of doing the mission that God had sent him out to do, he talked to Samuel. He talked to Samuel, told him how grieved he was that he made Saul king. So Saul turned away, and he not carried out the instruction that God had told him to do. So Samuel was troubled. Samuel was troubled when God had told him about it. So Samuel had went early that morning, took over to try to hunt Saul down and talk to him like, why you didn't, obey God. So Samuel met with him and asked him why he haven't followed through with and obeyed God, mission. So Saul said, Saul said he went, but he brought back to king. But then what God had asked him to do, so God wanted you to destroy those wicked people, the Ammonites, and make war on them until you have wiped them out, not bring them back. He brought something back. He brought the king back, but that's not the instruction that God had given him to do. God planned for Saul was to wipe them out, not to bring the king back, to God. That wasn't instruction that God had given him to do. So Samuel said, why you not obey the law? So Saul said he went, but he brought back the king, Agag. But that's not what God told him to do. So now God said, wipe them out, not bring the king back. So Samuel said, give me the king. Samuel said, give me the king. So Samuel said, you have rejected the word of the Lord. So he had rejected you as king. you know. So now God rejects Saul, and now he will have David in place. So Samuel will anoint David. So they're gonna come from 1 Samuel 16, 1 through 8. So God gonna send Samuel to Jesse's house. So Jesse have 8 kids. But when Samuel get there, Samuel told him to bring his kids out, bring his sons out. All the sons passed by him. 7 passed by him. So God said that's not it. So he had one more child. So Samuel asked Jesse, where's your other child? He said he outside in the field. See, David was always out in the field. He was good with his hands. You know, David was good with his hands. So they asked to bring him in. So they brought David in. God said, yes, that's it. So not him. And so God also said, anoint him in front of his brothers, in the presence of his brothers. So God wanted to make sure his brothers was there, when he anointed David. David is the 8th child, the 8th child out of all of them. He have 8 sons, and God picked only one, and that was David, the last child. So God said, Samuel, do not consider his appearance. Now, before God had took him out there, sent him out there, God told him, don't consider the appearance or the height, because God already knew he was a boy. So he didn't tell him that. He just told him, don't worry about his height, don't worry about his appearance. So the Lord does not look at the things that man look at the outward appearance. See, God don't look at the appearance. God check people heart out, check their heart out. But the Lord look at the heart. See, God look at your heart. He ain't gonna look at how you look. So God said He don't look at the appearance or the height. So that means the height doesn't matter. Because they have a lot of young prophets that's in this Bible that God had picked. So it means they don't have to be a certain age for God to pick them to be anointed. And we see they don't have to be a certain height. So height doesn't matter to God, because if we have confidence in God, you can bring down any giant that come against you. David said he could bring this giant down. David had so much confidence, and we can have confidence too. Because giants be around me all the time. Each trial I defeat. I defeat the devil. Because see, the devil gonna always have a plan. And you got to have so much confidence in God that you can bring any giant down that's in your life. Bring any giant down that's in your life that's constantly keep on hanging around you. Bring it down. Have that confidence in God. Have confidence in God that you can bring that giant down. Um, Now Samuel went to Jesse's home, asked him to bring out the children because God wanted to anoint him. Now Jesse had 8 boys, but only 7 came and passed by Samuel. So God said, that's not it. That's one more child. So that's when He told him, yeah, we have one. I have one that's in the field. Go get him. So when David came in, God said, yes, that's it. So God said, yes, anoint him. And God said, anoint him in the presence of his brothers, his other brothers. So God, when God bless you, God want to bless you in front of your brothers, in front of your enemies, in front of your big giant. You know. So He said, make sure they're still standing right there in the living room. Bless David in front of them. So the Spirit of the Lord. So Samuel anointed David. And that same day, the Spirit of the Lord on David in power. Because see, David gonna be successful in everything he do, because the power of God, that Spirit gonna be upon him. So the Spirit of God that was on Saul, it gonna depart from Saul, and not only gonna depart, but it gonna leave him with an evil spirit that gonna torment him. He gonna need David help. So we see that the Spirit of the Lord is on David with power. And now we see the Spirit of the Lord will depart from Saul. Not only the God of Spirit would need Saul, but God will place an evil spirit that's gonna come upon him that's gonna torment him. Because for him not following instruction. He went to the place where God told him to go at, but he didn't wipe out nobody like God told him. He brought back the king, and he didn't follow the instruction correctly. So now Saul have an evil spirit upon him. Now looking for someone who can play the herbs to make his evil spirit stop. To make him feel good. So now he need help. So it only gonna stop temporary. He gonna constantly keep on having David to play that music and all that kind of stuff for the evil spirit to stop. It's not gonna stop completely. It's just temporary. So Saul sent his servant out to find someone. So the servant came back and said, Jesse have a son that played the herb. David play music. David write songs. David dance. David do all that. So he also a brave boy and a warrior that speak well and fine looking boy, and the Lord is with him. So Saul sent his messengers to Jesse to send your son over. So Saul met David and he was well pleased. But down the line, we will see how Saul will be jealous of David because the Lord will be with David. So whenever the evil spirit comes upon Saul, David will play the herbs and David will feel a relief, will come to Saul and he will feel better. The evil spirit will leave him, but only temporarily, because he constantly going to need David's help. So David will fight this Philistine, the giant. They're going to come from 1 Samuel 17, 1 to down. So now the Philistines gathered their forces for war. So assembly now, they camp and ready for war. Now the Philistines, they're just camping out. They're ready for war. They're ready for war. So Saul and the Israelite assembly, they camp also. They threw up their battle, line to meet the Philistine. Now remember, David been anointed, but he's not in position yet. The Spirit of God depart from Saul, but Saul still king over Israel. So now David been anointed, but not in position. The Spirit of the Lord depart from Saul, but he's still king over Israelite. Now Saul have to find someone, to help to fight this big giant. He's still the king now, so he still have to make decision. Just a big old giant that's 9 feet tall. So with hammer and everything's covered on him. He got heavy stuff that's on him. He stood up. This giant stood up and shouted, "Y'all come on out. Y'all line up for battle." This giant ready. The giant said, Saul, chose someone to come on out here. He being sarcastic. This giant is very sarcastic. He's telling Saul, bring somebody out here. I'm ready. Y'all come on, line up. So the Israelite got terrified because this big old giant standing up and he's shouting and he's talking to them. Y'all just send somebody out here. He ready to fight. So now David said, can anyone fight against this giant? So he's trying to find someone. So Saul said, you are not able to fight against, so David said, I do it. David said, I'll fight against that giant. So Saul looking at him like, oh no, you can't fight against this big old giant. The Philistine, you are only a boy. So he trying to protect him, saying he only a boy. So now David is good with his hands. Now remember when they went there, he was already in the field. So he worked in the field. He killed animals and bears and lions. He just take them and just break their head off. And this is a boy was doing all this here. This is a boy. So 1 Samuel 17:37. David said, the Lord who delivered me from the lions and the bears and all the animals he working out in the field, he said the same Lord will deliver him from this giant. So that's why he said, I can fight this giant. Because the same Lord that delivered me from the lions, the bears, and all kind of animals that's in that field, God delivered him from all that. God did not allow them lions and them bears to chew him up like pieces. So he said if the Lord was with him, with the lions and the bears, he said the name of the Lord will be with him to fight down this big giant. And that's how it is with our life. When we got big giants coming against us, we got the devil keep coming against us. All we got to do is call out on the name of the Lord. Call out on the name of the Lord, and we can beat down any giants that keep on coming against us. He was a boy, and he had God in his life as a boy. Now he said anytime the Lord was with him in that field, with the lions and the bears did not eat him up, he said the name of the Lord gonna be with him to bring down that big old giant. So Saul said to David, "Go." See, David had to make his speech. For Saul to make this move. Now, so Saul told David, "Okay, you go ahead. The Lord will be with you." Because Saul already know the Lord was with him, so he know how powerful he was. Now, if this boy is saying that the Lord was with him in that field when the lions and the bears came against him, so Saul said, "Okay, you go ahead. The Lord gonna be with you." So Saul tried to dress him with all kind of stuff, all kind of pieces of the armor. All that stuff is heavy. So David stood up. David about to fall back down. He couldn't even walk with I saw the move. He couldn't even walk with all that stuff on. So David said, "I gotta take this off." He said, I can't move. I can't fight with all this stuff on. So all David need is five smooth stones, his slingshot, and his bag. That's all he need. And Saul looking at him, that's all you going out there with? You know how big that big giant is? So and David said, how big my God is? He going out there against that big old giant that's 9 feet tall with a slingshot in his bag. So Saul's like, "Okay, go ahead." So David goes out there, and the Philistines, the giant, they're coming closer and closer. And remember, he's a boy, and this big old giant coming closer and closer to him. So as this giant coming closer and closer to him, the giant looking at David and like, "What y'all brought out here? This is a boy. This is a boy. What is y'all bringing out here? This is a boy." So the Philistine says to David, "I'm a big dog that you come at me with sticks." So the giant said, "You come at me with sticks?" And he said, I give your flesh to the birds, to the air, and to the beasts of the field. So this was David said. David said, "You come at me against swords and spears, remember his weapons and stuff. But I come against you with the name of the Lord." That's all you need. That's all you need. That's all you need is God. He said, God, the name of the Lord is his defense. It's his defense. He'll swing shot in the name of the Lord. The name of the Lord, all your defense. And that's all you need. When you got a whole army coming against you, remember the Israelites had Pharaoh whole army coming against them. What God did? God put them under the Red Sea. So when you got a whole army coming against you, you got big old giants coming against you. That's all you need in the name of the Lord. That will be your defense. And that's what David had told this big giant. You coming at me with weapons. I'm coming at you with the name of the Lord. The name of the Lord is my defense. So this is the day. He telling the giant, this is the day the Lord will hand you over to me. So he got confidence. See, David went out there with confidence. That's what we have to do. We got to have confidence. I have confidence. That's why no matter how I keep on getting attacked, I still keep on pressing on because I have confidence in the name of the Lord. And that's what you got to have, confidence in the name of the Lord. No matter how an army keep coming against you, how things keep coming against you, you got to praise the name of the Lord for your defense that will beat your giants down. Because we can't beat it down. Don't think David beat this down on his own wind, his own flesh. David already knew that the name of the Lord did this. He at the end you're gonna see how he gonna give God the glory. So this is the day the Lord will hand you over to me, and I will strike you down and cut off your head. Now this is a boy talking. This is a boy got so much confidence in God. He said the Lord would deliver you over to me. And he said, I will strike you down. And not only strike you down, I'm going to take your head off. This is the boy talking that has so much confidence in God. So David also said, I will give the carcasses of the Philistine army to the birds of the air and the beasts of the earth. The whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. And we see that David is giving God glory. Not only that he giving God his defense, but when God delivered the Philistine to him, delivered that giant to him, he giving God the glory, because God gets the glory on all our battle, all our storm. This story here gonna make history for David. And he made sure that God gets the glory of this, because he said, I'm gonna bring that head. I'm gonna cut your head off and bring your head to the Philistine, and I'm gonna sit it up there for the whole world to see that God did this here. So that means he giving God the glory for his victory. We can get victory, but God gonna get the glory. And we see this is a boy knows so much about God, and that's so good. That's so amazing that this boy had God in his life at a young age. And he also know about that when you get victory over your battle, God still gets the glory. So God gets the glory on all our battle. That we see that David glorified God after his defeat, after his victory. David did not fight this giant with his own strength. He had confidence in God to fight and bring the giant down. Now remember, before David started that he said, in the name of the Lord for his defense. Now this boy had faith and he had confidence before he even went out there, that he will bring this giant down. He told the giant before they even started. He said, I'm gonna strike you down. And then not only strike you down, I'm gonna take your head off. So he told him this before he even did in the damage. I mean, this boy had so much confidence in himself. He had so much confidence in God. So we see size doesn't matter. Any deliverer, any devil, any giant that come against you, all your defense that you need is God. Call out on the name of the Lord, and that will be your defense. And you can bring down any giants that constantly keep coming against you, any things that keep on coming against you. You can bring it down, and God will be your defense. So we see the size doesn't matter. We saw that David was a teenager. Size doesn't matter. Appearance doesn't matter. He told Samuel that when he went to go get David, size doesn't matter. We see that David was this size. We see the giant was about 9 feet tall. And what happened? David used that slingshot and brought that giant down. But it was the strength of God that really brought him down until that giant could not get back up. So what David done, we too have to have faith. Now, David had faith in himself, and he also had confidence in God. He made God his defense, and that's how he won. We have to win our battle, but we have to realize it's God who make us win our battle. We might be victorious, but God gonna get the glory. So the giant came closer to attack David. So David reached in his bag. Remember, he went out there with his bag, and he took out his stone, his little slingshot, and he struck the Philistine on his forehead. So the stone stuck on the Philistine forehead, and he fell down. He fell down, face down on the ground. So we see the Lord saves the battle of the Lord. And we see that David said the Lord will give you to me, will deliver you to me. And God did just that. Because God saw that this boy here had so much confidence in God. He went out there with faith. We got to have faith in our stone. He had faith before he went out there that he could bring this down because he had so much confidence in God. He made God his defense. And that's how we have to do. We have to make God our defense. Because sometimes our stone can be too big. Sometimes our battle can be too big. It could be too big. It doesn't matter how big your giant is. We have to have faith that we can stand up against anything that come against us, long as we have God at our defense. So we see that David had faith and he had so much confidence in God. Now all David needed was his slingshot to bring this giant down with the Lord's strength as his defense. Now we see that David trumped over the Philistine with a slingshot, without a weapon. Now he struck down and killed that giant. So when David saw that the giant was down, now he knocked the Philistine down with the slingshot on his forehead, but that was a strength from God. But so when he saw that the giant fell down, David ran over there, got on top of the giant, and took his head off. Took the Philistine head off with the Philistine own weapon. Remember, he had the swords that he was going to use against David. David took his own weapon and took his head off, and threw it and cut his head off with his own weapon, just like David, and and then a giant won't tease David that, oh, you just a boy, but you had all kind of weapons to try to attack this boy. So David took his own weapon and took his head off. So David took the Philistine head off and brought it to Jerusalem, like he said, and put the Philistine weapon in his own tent. So David had faith and he had confidence to stand against this giant, who is 9 feet tall. So David needed no weapon for his slingshot and the name of the Lord for his defense. That's all he needed. So David knew the battle belongs to God, because David said he will bring his head to Jerusalem, where the whole world can see that there is a God. There is a God. And David give God the glory. And this is a boy know how to give God. Now, David had victory. He won. But he made sure he gave God the glory over his victory. And that's why we have to do. I know we work so hard in our trial. We work so hard. But when we win, we will get victory. We will be victorious. But we have to always give God the glory of all our victories. Like David did. He was a boy. And he knew how to do that. So we see that he is a boy. That size doesn't matter. So when God is in your corner, that's all you need as your defense. Now this story here made history. So this package pretty much one size doesn't matter. You can bring any giant down that's constantly keep coming against you in your life. Any giant down. Because the devil gonna come at you in all kinds of ways with all power. Things with all power. But God defense is all you need to bring anything down in your life. So too, have faith. Have faith in yourself and have confidence that God is your defense to be any giant that come towards your way, who constantly wants to try to take you down. Have faith in yourself and have confidence in God and let God be your defense. That you can bring any giant down. Any giant down. And 3, David was anointed when he was a boy, but he was not in position. So we see that he still was under Saul, and Saul was the king over Israel. So Saul had to still make decision. So that's all the word I have for you on today. And make sure, don't be scared of your giant. Don't be scared of your giant. And the giant that come against you, have faith and have all the confidence in God to be your defense. And you can bring any giant down that constantly keep coming, trying to come against you, to try to bring you down, trying to destroy you. And you could turn around and be just like David. Size doesn't matter. You could be just like David and bring that giant down. And he know he ain't brought it down on his own strength. He know it was God's strength, because he know he had so much confidence in God that God would deliver that giant to him, and God did just that. So y'all have a nice day, and I'll see you on the next video.